I'm Professor Christopher Churchill, and I will be giving you audiovisual lectures all semester long for this online course. This will be the first one in a sense, and it's basically an introduction to the course to help you navigate the Canvas and have a feeling for what the lesson plan is, what the scope of the class is, and these things. I would just like to start by saying this is my favorite class to teach. I'm very passionate about the human condition. I'm very passionate about the future of the human condition. And so in a sense, I like to teach this course and show how we are in the midst of a transition, humanity is. And it's a very important transition. It's a very exciting transition. You live in a very exciting age. And you have a golden opportunity to play a part in the trajectory that humanity takes in the future. And I'd like you to gain some perspective through this course and get some excitement about what could be happening in our future. So without further ado, I suppose, on talking about the big picture, which I will talk about in the next lecture, I'd like to give you some background on the course Pragmatics. So I'm going to share my screen with you now and show you the Canvas page. So if you can see this Canvas page here, this is what it looks like. It will be published shortly after I get this video done. This is the front page, the home page. The key areas that you'll be wanting to look at are the home page, the modules, the syllabus, of course, and eventually, of course, as assignments come in, your grades. And then the calendar as well will be very helpful. And I believe you all have a dashboard, which is very helpful as well. So the very top of this page is designed to sort of give you an all-in-one connectivity of the various assignments and tasks that have to be done. So basically, I just want to remind you all that if you aren't aware already, that this is an online course already. And of course, you'll have to have some robust internet and be good with Zoom. It's going to be arranged into weekly modules. Each module we'll go through in a bit what those are all going to be. But the class is designed so that each week is structured identically. So basically on Monday you do this, and then by Saturday or Friday this is all due. And what happens in between every week is based upon your ability to, or your time management of your own life and your classes. But the structure of this class is such that everything is always opened up for the module and then due for the module in the same way every week, so that there's no variations and it doesn't keep being a moving target on you. These modules I'm going to go through in a minute are on the syllabus, which we'll click on, but I just want to show you this table here. This table links to various pages, for example, the course Pragmatics, which I'll go through toward the end of the video. This is a lineup of all the things that you have to, how you can set your time up to manage yourself for each module in the class. We'll go through that in a minute. I'd like to mention that we are going to have 4 distinguished speakers come to visit with us. And those distinguished visitors will be Frank White. He's coming on the 9th. These will be Zoom sessions at 5:30 p.m. And Andrew Chaikin, who will be March 29th. And Alice Karth, who is going to be on Yuri's Day, the day that's the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space. She'll be here for that day. And then Lauren Peterson will be here toward the end of April on April 28th. And I'll let you read through these and learn about these different individuals. There are going to be some group projects that are centered around the speakers. So here's the group project description. There'll be 4, obviously, group projects, and they'll be based upon pairings that you'll be paired up in groups of 4, once for Frank White, once for Andrew Chaikin, once for Alice, and once for Lauren. And so you'll need to read through that and understand how that's going to play out. The thing is, we will keep communicating with you through the semester, or sending out Canvas messages reminding you of things and whatnot. So it's not like it's strictly on autopilot. We will be interacting with you, help guiding you through these projects. I have a page here with extra credit assignments. I've set up 3 already. They have due dates. They open on a certain day. They're due on a certain day. Let's see if they become available. I reserve the right to add some more, so you might have some more opportunities for extra credit. So you might want to keep an eye out for those. Now, the one thing about this class that's going to be a little different, perhaps, is that there's going to be some prerequisites that the modules are only going to be opened up for you once you actually pass these 2 prerequisites. The first one is this academic conduct and plagiarism, what I'm calling workshop. And that's due by Friday the 29th at 11:59, so at the end of the first week of classes. Excuse me. And so this is something that you need to read, and you have to look at these different items, and then you have to take a quiz. And you have to get 100% on the quiz to pass and open up the modules, but you have unlimited attempts at the quiz, and if there's no time limit on the quiz, and your highest score will be the score that gets kept. So once you hit 100%, you are good to go. So you can take that as many times as you need to in order to get your 100% on that quiz. Then there's also the COVID-19 Commitment. That's due also on the 29th. You have to basically watch this very short video. You click here to see that, and then you can take the COVID quiz, click here to do that. And that's worth 10 points, I believe, credited toward your quizzes. But you have to take both of those before the modules will open up for you, except for the very first module, the first week, of course, which includes the introduction to the class and a lecture called The Overview Effect. Now, something that I'm doing that is a little bit different is that we will not be having any midterm exams. You will only be having a quiz each week on the material for that week. There will not be any large midterm exams. However, there will be a final exam essay due finals week. The thing is I'm making that question available to you now so that you can take notes throughout the semester as to how you might want to build this essay. So it's up to you. You could wait to the last minute and try to cram the information for this question into an essay, or you could take some notes throughout the semester saying, oh, I'm going to connect these dots into the essay, and I'm going to connect these dots. That's completely up to you, but I'm giving you that opportunity. So the question is basically this: based on the history that created the world today, and given the current trajectory humans are on, what will the future look like in 500 years? So I'm asking you to be a futurist. You have to read all of this to understand exactly what's expected to be put in the essay. But there you have it. You now know what the final exam is and that there's no other exams. Okay, so here's the information on the prerequisites. And then before I go to the syllabus, I think what I'll do is tell you a little bit about the fact that I'm going to be having optional office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays from 2 to 3 p.m. And so you can join me on Zoom, ask me any questions about the homework, about life, whatever the case may be. It's optional, but yet again, I'll be there for these Monday and Wednesdays, 2 to 3 every week. And our teaching assistant is Rachel Mara. And Rachel will be having office hours on Wednesdays, basically from noon to 1. Okay. As far as reaching out to us, please only Canvas messages. Please don't send anything directly to our campus emails. It turns out that Canvas messages are forwarded to our campus emails. So it doesn't matter. We get them anyway on both platforms. So you don't need to duplicate that effort. Okay, so let's look at the structure of the class. Syllabus. Okay, so on the syllabus, I've made this nice little chart, which basically gives you the whole rundown of the class. I'm going to see if I can expand that a little bit so that it's more readable. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, so the class is broken into basically 3 parts, something called the C race, something called the space race, and then something called new space. There's also sort of a part 0 or part 1 overview, and that's going to be the first week of class. The way this chart works is that here's the week number, 2 through 4, 5, 6 through 10. Here is the date that the module opens, and here's the date that it closes. This is basically Saturday to Saturday. So instead of doing Monday to Friday, I actually give you some weekend time as well. So everything opens up at 5 a.m. on Saturday, and then it arcs all the way through the next Saturday at midnight. And so, for example, this first module, 1.1, called Introduction, Wanderings, and the Overview Effect, closes on midnight on January 30th. Meanwhile, module 1.2 will then open up at 5 a.m. on January 30th. So there's that overlap temporarily. What do I mean by open is that all of the quizzes, all of the materials will become available on Canvas, except the lectures and the audiovisual components to the lectures, and also there's some additional supplementary videos. Those are always available to watch. So you can watch a lecture whenever you want, watch as many times as you want, and you can watch it early in the semester. You can watch it again later in the semester. Those are always available, but as far as quizzes go and homework assignments, they open up and then they close so that they're compartmentalized within the module time frame. Okay, so we're going to start out with introductions and wanderings. The overview of the class is basically what you're going through right now, this particular lecture, 1.1a. And then we're going to do the overview effect as well this week. So there'll be 2 videos each week, 1A and 1B. Then we're going to do the C race, the discovery of the planet and world domination. And just to justify why we're doing that is we have a world that we live in today. And that world, the languages, the cultures, the wealth distribution, the social stratification and discrimination or lacks of advantages that people have, all that everything about the world, the communication hubs, the trade routes, I mean, everything that makes up the modern world is based upon the outcomes of this period called the sea race, which starts around the 1400s. And then humans learn that they can travel all around the planet, and they discover the planet and they exploit the planet and they exploit each other. It's really the story of what got us here today. So we're going to talk about that because what we want to do is get to world domination and its outcomes, okay? Because basically nation states have been vying for world domination since this whole sea race thing began, okay? So we really want to talk about how people learn to explore, to take resources and gather resources for themselves. And then that turned into something where nations and companies work together to then exploit things. You probably heard of the Dutch East Indies Company or the Hudson Bay Company. These are government-sponsored companies that then, took over the trade routes and learned and made amazing amounts of money for their country and for the individuals who invested in it, and exploited everything in the process. Now, I'm not a real negative person about humans and whatnot, but we have followed a natural arc in humanity, and we are on that arc today. The question is really, are we going to continue on that arc when we go out into space? And that's really the main theme, one of the main themes of this class. So we have a world today based upon 500 years of history that got us there, 600 years now. Okay. And so we're going to look at the outcomes of the sea race in terms of what the world is today and how these steps through the sea race and then the development of nation states and the combination of companies, country or nation state sponsored companies that became monopolies around the world, and then the colonization and how all of this affected and made the world today. Because when we go out into space, right now it is open resource. It's like fair game according to the current human understanding. What do? We find a virgin territory, and then we go in there and we exploit it and use the resources, and then we move on to the next place. And we've done that on the planet, but we've effectively covered the whole planet now, and maybe getting to the point where we are not self-sustained anymore. And so we should be learning a lesson on that account. And will we apply the old modes that we've been using, that we're on the arc of using right now, as we go out into space, or will we learn to be self-sustaining and work in, I don't want to call it a global sense anymore, but as a global community, move out into space and as a unified species? Will we do that? I'm not going to give you my opinion just yet. We'll have to see it. It'll probably creep out in every lecture. You'll know what my opinion is about that. So then we're going to jump basically up to the 1900s, the early 1900s, the late 1800s. It transitions out of the global outcomes of colonization. We're going to go through World War I, World War II, and come out to the space race and the Cold War. And the space race is an interesting period where you have another period of breakthrough technology, if you will. In the sea race, you had breakthrough technology in the terms of ships and sailing and compasses and those instruments that allowed us to navigate the globe. Then the rocket became a concept that could be built. The physics was understood well enough, and we had the breakthrough technology in the rocket. The thing about the rocket was that it was actually built as a weapon. And so we're going to talk about the development of rockets as weapons and how that got transformed into a civilian, if you will, national space race, not an arms race. And so we'll talk about how that turned into a project to go to the moon, Project Apollo. And if you are one of those people that doubt whether we went to the moon, that's fine. You just go right on doubting, because as soon as we go back, we're going to find all the artifacts that are laying on there. And if you still think it's a conspiracy, you'd be wrong. Okay. So anyway, we'll talk about the space race in terms of the Cold War, and that would be the United States versus the Soviet Union. What I failed to mention of the analogy in the sea race is that Portugal and Spain were kind of like the USA and the Soviet state of the sea race, of the space race, except for that they were the counterparts of that for the sea race. So there was that period, and everything that goes beyond, say, 1550 or something like that is analogous to where we are now, in the sense that once that race and that conflict is over, what happens? So we're going to talk about that in the sea race, but we don't know what's going to happen after the space race. We're in the midst of that right now. One of the things we'll talk about is China a great deal. We'll talk about it during the sea race because they were a powerful seafaring nation until they withdrew. But they have really woken up over the last century, and we'll talk about their ambitions, and we'll go through the Skylab and the space shuttle and the space station era and stuff like that. And then we're going to go into the new space module. And the new space module is really what's happening, you know, in the next 100 years, up to the next 500 years, and even beyond. Okay, so we'll talk about this thing called the fight for space, and space as a culture. And then, of course, we'll touch on Elon Musk and his SpaceX, and Jeff Bezos and his Blue Origin, and Sir Branson with his Virgin Galactic. I'm wearing a t-shirt on his behalf today. And this is something called the Orbital Assembly Company, OAC. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on right now. People are investing with these breakthrough technologies. And then we'll talk about this, how are we going to do this? Are we going to continue the arc of exploitation and competition and trying to have power over one another that creates these imbalances and non-sustainability? Or are we going to have learned from our lessons and use going out into space as a way to help sustain and preserve the Earth and become a unified species? We'll talk about Kardashev civilizations, type 1, type 2, and type 3, particularly how we probably will develop into a type 2 civilization over the next 500 years. On the other hand, if we want to talk about the philosophy of all that, we can then get into the practicality of exploitation of the solar system. You know, if we go on the current arc of exploitation, what will that look like? What can we get out of asteroids? Why would we want to mine asteroids? What can we get out of the moon, out of Mars? Why would we go out to Europa, you know, and things like that? Okay. And then we'll end by getting a little bit out there. We're talking about new physics in the future. So you may have heard of quantum computing, you know, of artificial intelligence. There's something called the Alcubierre white warp drive, if you will. It's a faster than light drive. There are many ideas for new physics, and we'll watch some short videos that explain these basically Star Trek devices that are being built today as we speak. I personally am one of these individuals that does not believe that the speed of light, as we know it, is a limiting speed. I believe that Einstein's right, that individual information, no, I'm going to take that back. If you've ever heard of quantum entanglement, it turns out that you can do instantaneous information transfer, and people have succeeded at doing that up to 40 or 50 kilometers now, where there's instantaneous information transfer through something called quantum entanglement. So we'll get out there at that fringe toward the end of the class. And so I hope you'll enjoy that journey that we're going to take through this course. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the home page now. So I hope that sounds exciting, that you want to stick around for more. Okay, so that as I went through the syllabus, I went through the entire course motivation there, excuse me, if you will, talking about the sea race and then the Cold War and the space race and then new space. So now I'm going to go through some of the practicalities of the course. Online, it's 3 credits. There's no prerequisites except for those academic conduct workshop and the COVID-19 thing that you have to do. There's going to be pre-recorded lectures. They'll be available, and then there'll be supplementary videos that go along with those lectures that you need to watch, followed by some quizzes and a homework assignment. We're going to have 3 books that we're going to read this semester. The first is The Discoverers, and I'm hoping that you can see it here. I have because of the virtual screen, I have to put it right in front of me. This is the Discoverers. You can get it on Amazon for quite cheaply. You should have gotten an email from me that said jump on that right away, because we're going to start reading this right away. Now, these are pretty thick books. We're only going to be reading probably about this much out of the Discoverers, right there, something like that. So, but this is a spectacular book. I've read it like 10 times. Love it, love it, love it. And you should definitely get the book. The second book we're going to read is called Space Race. Now, this is an older version. Your cover will have some kind of orange fancy thing on it. It's a little different. But this is a book about the end of World War II and the development, the stealing of rocket technology from the Germans after they lost the war, where the Americans came in and stole some, and the Russians came in and they stole some, and then they both worked fast to see who could make bigger, better, faster rockets more quickly. And of course, the reason is because nuclear bombs had just been invented, and you could deliver a nuclear bomb halfway around the world on a rocket, and there was no defense or warning about it. So it was a formidable and frightful time during the space race. So this is a really good book. It talks about two individuals in particular in their lives, Werner von Braun and Sergei Korolev, who was the chief designer for the Russian rockets. Okay, and then the last book is by Andrew Chaikin. This is the hardbound version of it, but you can get the softbound. It's called A Man on the Moon. And A Man on the Moon, this is a spectacular book. I've also read it like 10 times. It goes through each Apollo mission, and you literally are like a fly on the wall with the astronauts, from the way they trained to the way they felt before they took off. You're in the rocket when it launches, you travel to the moon, you walk on the moon, you take off from the moon, you come home, you splash down. Every part of every mission, you are just part of it. It is an amazing book. So if you really want to know what those Apollo missions were like, this is the book to read. Now, you may have recognized that this book had been converted into an HBO series called From the Earth to the Moon, which was produced by Tom Hanks. So Tom Hanks has done a foreword. He's good friends with Andrew Chaikin. Andrew Chaikin is going to be one of our guest speakers as well. So don't embarrass him by not having read his book. Just kidding. Okay. I'm going to talk about this in the course Pragmatics a little bit later, but the bottom line is that there's going to be an attendance quiz each week. So basically, you're going to watch the lecture, and then in the lecture, there's going to be a little Easter egg, if you will, and from that, you can answer the quiz. It's a 2-second quiz that basically indicates that you've watched the lecture video. Office hours, again, you know those, and they are optional. Here's some information about communication. Basically, we're saying communicate early, communicate often, and then we will do our best to always respond within 24 hours. Our goal is to respond within a few hours whenever you write us. Again, Canvas messaging, not our emails. There will be a lecture quiz. So after you've watched the 2 lecture videos each week and you've watched the supplementary YouTube videos, then there'll be a small quiz. And that quiz is due by every Saturday at the end of the module. There'll also be a small homework assignment that you have to do. It's usually going to be a small essay question or quick questions about a couple things. They won't be very long, but there'll be one each week just to get you to do some writing. Okay, we want you to articulate what you're learning. There will be no midterm exams. You heard me say that already. There will be a final, and you can already view it as you know. There will be the Distinguished Lecture Series, and that will be meshed with some group projects. Grading, that touch-based quiz and the attendance quizzes I told you about that you'll do each week are 10% of your grade. Then the lecture quizzes, the post-lecture quizzes are 30%. The homework assignments will be 25%. The lecture series group projects will be 20, and then that final exam essay will be 15% of your grade. Now, here's some things on academic integrity and discrimination. The bottom line is that we are going to adhere to codes of conduct which appeal to our higher self. We are not going to bully anybody. We are not going to discriminate against anybody. And we're going to stick up for people if they get bullied. And we certainly should report it, like if anything bad is happening. So the bottom line is I'd like you to read this material, particularly about academic integrity. Here is your one-stop shop for all your resources about the policies for academic and non-academic integrity. And remember that you will be taking the workshop. And so in the workshop, you are going to be exposed to learning everything that we want to make sure that you are going to adhere to and embrace for the semester. So here's part one, your academic integrity brief overview, and then the external materials that you'll have to look at, and then to take the quiz. Bottom line is, we are doing this because cheating has become a huge problem, and we are just going to make you agree and understand that there will not be any tolerance for cheating. And from that point of view, you're going to be signing an agreement at some level by taking that quiz. And we're just going to follow the policy. I'm not going to be a police officer. I'm not going to be a judge. I'm basically, if I have the evidence, we are just going to write it up and send it up. And I'm not going to think about it because I don't want to have to deal with it. Every semester, I have to deal with it. I think last semester I had 7 cases. I don't think of myself as a harsh person, but it's not my job to go around making sure people aren't cheating. So I'm sending it up to the people in the universities whose job it is, and that's what I'm going to do. So unfortunately, that means you will get on the university's radar, and that's not a good thing. So you know what? Just do your own work. All you have to do is write it in your own words and do it by yourself, and you're good to go. Good to go. Okay. Now, I wanted to then show you the modules, an example module. So let's take a quick look here. We go over here and click on modules. And my internet will work for me. So here's a typical module. This is the first module, the one that we're on. In fact, this lecture will actually end up on this list here. But let's take a look-see at, say, the C-Race module, or see, we could do the, well, let's do a space one. That's probably more fun if you'll allow me to run this up here. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at, say, the space race with Project Mercury and Gemini versus the Soviets. So what'll happen for each module opening up on Saturday morning is the touch base quiz. And the touch base quiz is a super simple quiz. Basically, you click on this and it says, which module are we doing this week? And it's like, oh, we're doing this one. Okay, so then you submit the quiz and you're done, and you get 5 points. And it just basically is due on that Monday. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to show up on Canvas by Monday and get moving on the class. I'm very afraid that if I don't somehow get you on Canvas by Monday, that you may just let it slip till Saturday morning, and then you've got to cram the whole thing in one day. And that would just be terrible and awful. You still might do that, but if you want the 5 points, you got to show up on Monday and take the touch base quiz. Okay, so let's see, we were on project. Okay, so then There'll be an attendance quiz. It's also just as simple, basically a multiple choice question. You take it after you watch the audio-visual lecture, which is not here, but the link to it will be. Now, basically, there's an A and a B each week. So this is sort of like if we met Tuesday, Thursday, this would sort of be like Tuesday's lecture. This would sort of be like Thursday's lecture. So here would be Tuesday's lecture, Project Mercury and Gemini. And basically, you have the lecture notes for the Project Mercury. Here's the reading that you're supposed to do for this. Here are the learning objectives about what you're going to learn about in the lecture and the reading. And in this case, there's a supplementary movie, 34 minutes of the first 34 minutes of that video. And then for Project Gemini, there's this short slide deck and then a small reading assignment. And then here are the learning goals. And then continue on, watch the last half hour of that movie. So I can show you what a lecture slide looks like. It's a lecture slide deck. You come in and I will basically be lecturing over these slides and you'll have that AV movie available to look at. Come hither, slide deck. So I picked a 36 megabyte one, so it may take a minute. As soon as I show you this slide deck, I'm going to go back to the class pragmatics page and we'll go through how you might organize your week in order to succeed at the class. So here's an example of a slide deck showing you the introduction. Here's the Mercury 7 astronauts. Here were the Mercury 13 women that never got to fly. Here are the goals of Project Mercury. Here are the first 2 flights. And then here's what a suborbital flight is. You get the point. Here's the next few flights, talking about those. And then of course I get to, in the lecture, I'll be telling you all kinds of fancy, fun little things about these flights and experiences. And then we talk about the technology and stuff like that. So, right. So this would be an example of one of the lectures. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go backwards now. Let's go back to, so it's not the modules. Let's go home. And I'm going to go to the course pragmatics page. So this is the last thing I'm going to cover before we end today's lecture. So this is the course description of basically all of the nitty-gritty details of like what you need to do each week and whatnot. Now I've written it out in great explanation, so it looks a lot longer and more complicated than it really is. It's really, you really basically on Monday you do the touch base quiz, what module are we doing this week? Boom, done. And then you'll want to read. I recommend doing that at the beginning, say over the weekend, and sort of in little bursts rather than a long thing. And then there's the PDF lecture slides that you can download. You can annotate while you're listening to the audio-visual lecture. There's the audio-visual lecture. Again, there's an A and a B for sort of a Tuesday and a Thursday. And then there might be 1 to 5 supplementary videos to watch. Like I showed you for the Mercury and the Gemini, there was that supplementary video to watch. Usually the videos are 10 minutes long and there's maybe about 3 of them. So usually it's about a half hour worth of video watching. And of course, they're way more interesting than lectures and a lot of more visual stuff. And you're going to learn some really cool stuff through the supplementary videos. I don't think there's ever 5 of them, usually 2 to 3. And then there's the attendance quizzes. There's 1 attendance quiz for lecture A, and there's 1 attendance quiz for lecture B. So, you watch lecture A, you take the lecture A attendance quiz, but bada bing, because remember, it's just an Easter egg in the lecture, and you say, oh, this is what it was, and a simple multiple choice question literally takes 10 seconds to do it. And then after you watch the second audio-visual lecture, the same thing. Then, after you've seen both the lectures, watched the videos, okay, and done the reading, then you'll have what's called the lecture quiz. And that'll be due on the Saturday at the end of the module. In fact, all the quiz things are always just due by Saturday at midnight at the end of the module. So there's no this, and this kind of things to the week. It's basically the touch base quiz, and then everything else is due on the next Saturday. So you can, during the week, you can engage in the module at your designated times that work for you. Okay, so then you'll take the lecture quiz, and that basically is the one thing that asks you about the information that you learned in the quiz. And then finally, the last thing is the homework assignment. So it seems like a lot, but it really flows, I think, in a nice way. Once you get through the first week, you'll get the flow of it. Okay, I did this last semester for my Life in the Universe class, and it worked beautifully. I got great reviews at the end of the semester. I loved the structure. Every week I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, when I was supposed to do it. So it works out pretty well. I'm pretty happy about it, and apparently students were too. Okay, so this is my recommended study plan. It's just a recommendation, but it sort of lays out, how you might plan your time. Listen, the best way to succeed is to try and structure your week each week so it's the same. Excuse me. Hopefully, if you have a job, you get the same hours every week. That would be great. But if you don't, of course, you'll have to adjust. But if you have the same hours every week, it's great. It's like 1 to 3 on Monday, I'm going to do this, and 1 to 3 on Tuesday, and then 9 in the morning to 11, I'll do something on Wednesday. So try to organize yourself that way and set yourself up so you're structured every week, and then bada bing, you'll get everything knocked out. Okay, so modules open at 5 a.m. on Saturday. As I've said, they close on 11:59 p.m. on the next Saturday. Okay, so your learning objectives should probably be about 5 to 6 hours per week. If you think about it, you usually have almost 3 hours in the classroom, 2.5 hours in the classroom. Plus you're supposed to read or do other things to study. So that's what this is about. So the reading assignment should take somewhere between 1 to 2 hours. I'm hoping only about an hour each week. Then you have lecture A, which is an hour, and then you might want to jump in and take that attendance quiz. Oh, I'm sorry, back up here. I recommend reading at the beginning of the week. That's why I put it up here on Saturday, Sunday, and maybe Monday. Reading over the weekend would be really the best. And then the touch base quiz opens up at 5 a.m., but it closes at midnight on Monday. So you have to do the touch base quiz either Saturday, Sunday, or Monday to start your module. If you don't, the module will still be available to you. You'll just miss out on the 5 points. And then you'll watch lecture A, and then you'll want to just jump over and take the lecture quiz real quick. Attendance quiz, remember that's a 5-second thing. And then you might want to watch lecture B and then the supplementary videos, or you might want to watch some of the supplementary videos and then lecture B, depending on how things look like they're structured. And then after you watch lecture B, you'll want to take the attendance quiz for B. Again, what was the Easter egg? Boom, click, got that. And then, toward the end of the week, then you just want to sort of like review what you learned here and then take your lecture quiz. So this is your lecture quiz, usually about 15 minutes. And then after the lecture quiz, you want to knock out the homework assignment, and then you're done. And so this, all these quizzes, this is due Monday night, but this one, and the homework, those are all due by midnight Saturday. So if for some reason you get some crazy thing happens and all the stuff gets pushed back to Friday, you've got Saturday, hopefully, to work on it and make sure you get it all done. Now, as far as homework goes, a little bit of a late policy thing. They will be due on Saturday night by midnight. We will accept them late through Sunday to midnight. That's it though. If it's past that, then you get a 0 on the homework. The reason being is that we automatically release the solutions to the homework. And once the solutions are released, that's it. The homework is closed. There's just no exception to it. Okay, so plan ahead if you think you're gonna miss out on that. Now, having said that, sometimes technology does a boo-foo on us. And so, you will have some problem where you handing in your homework at 11:59 on Saturday night and your internet freezes. Okay, and then you don't get it in until the next morning at 10 o'clock for some reason. That's going to be okay. You can write me. You can say, I got my homework in late because of this. But here's the deal. So listen closely. And it's written here on this page several times. If that happens, take a screenshot or a cell phone shot of the technical difficulty you're having and include that with your Canvas message so that I can see that you truly were on Canvas at that time. It needs to have a time and a date available in the picture, and that shows me that you were on Canvas at the time you said you were and that you were trying to submit the work. So that's very important if you want us to allow for technological glitches. Okay. Right. So I believe that the Easter egg I say is in every lecture, I will just randomly say the spacecraft payload is, and then fill that with a blank. And all you have to do is know what the is that I filled the blank in with. And then when you take the attendance quiz, that's the answer. Boom. I'll have a bunch of possible answers. For example, I might say the spacecraft payload is a solid chocolate bunny. And then I'll just continue on with the lecture. That's the Easter egg, so you take the quiz and you look for the answer chocolate bunny and click on it and you're done. So each week it's going to be the spacecraft payload is, and I'm going to make up something, the chocolate bunny, or, like a crumpled dollar bill, something silly and dumb and random. Okay. That's all the attendance quiz is. Okay. So this explains all of the policies, how the reading assignments work, how the audio visuals work, how the attendance quizzes work, how the lecture quizzes work, how the homework assignments work, how the exams that there aren't will work, and then how we'll have a discussion board you can use. I find that people don't really use it, but I'm going to make it available. And then the office hours that are optional. And then basically, this is a recommendation on how to succeed, and that is basically set up a routine, and that's the best thing to do. Okay, if you are an individual who is going to be invoking student services this semester, please let me know by Canvas message as soon as possible. You can just send me the paperwork. Please have filled out your name and the class information. Don't just hand me a blank piece of paper form to fill out. Please fill out all the relevant information for yourself, and I will fill out the professor part, and I'll send it into the student services, and we'll get you all set up. And I'll make sure that you get a carbon copy of that. Okay, and one last thing, I wish you all the best this semester. I hope you really enjoy it. I hope I get to see you at office hours. I will look forward to seeing you at the visiting lectures on Zoom. We'll tell you more about that as they get closer. And I just want to say this COVID thing is real, and I hope that you will do everything you can to keep yourself and your family safe and your roommates and whatnot. And just keep in mind that a more contagious variation of it is spreading right now. They expect it to get worse, that March is probably, I've heard, going to be the worst period of the COVID-19 pandemic, is as expected. So it's going to get worse over the next few months, and we have to remain diligent. So, but let's all stay safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, and stay away from people. They say outdoors is best. Try not to be indoors with anybody, even with the mask on, for more than about 10, 15 minutes at the absolute maximum. And that should really help you. I think that some of that's in the video. Okay, I think I covered everything, and you probably already knocked off the video because you're like, I'm done listening to this guy. But nonetheless, I hope that everything was explained well, and I hope that the class seemed interesting to you. I'm definitely going to try and instill a fire in you as to having some passion toward the future and space and being a part of it. Um, Also, before you quit out, I forgot something. There's a little survey I'd like you to take at the beginning of module 1, a student survey right here, due with the touch-based quiz. And it's basically asking you some simple questions about why are you taking the class? What's your interest level in space? How optimistic are you about the future of the Earth and humanity? Or how pessimistic are you? And things like that, just to get a feel for the distribution in the class, because I think as I develop the lectures, I can speak to the different factions of optimists and pessimists in the class and things like that. So it'd really be helpful. And I'm very interested in helping anybody touch base about learning if the field that they're studying could fit into the future of the space commercialization. It turns out you don't have to just be a rocket scientist or an astronaut to get into it, right? I mean, every walk of life could somehow be involved in space tech and space commercialization. In the hotel businesses, they're going to need cooks, okay? And they're going to, all kinds of things. They're going to, every profession. Okay, so I want to thank you for staying to the bitter end, and we'll see you next time when we are going to talk about the overview effect, which I believe is Frank White's invention, and he's also one of our guest speakers. So stay tuned for that. The overview effect is very amazing. Okay, you all take care, and I thank you very much.